This is the video review for Forever Avalon, which was written by Mark Piggott, and I hope that an image of that book is going to come up right now. But okay, so this book is kind of a fantasy book. I'm using my Kindle to help me remember things here. It's a fantasy book where a whole family gets shipped off to New Avalon. They end up there by accident. They thought their father was dead, but when they come, they find out their father is the Gil-Gamesh, which is basically like a really big title. He's a knight, he's a warrior, he's been through so many different quests, and well, they weren't expecting him to be alive, so already that is a pretty big shock to them. They're like, oh no. Well, they're not like, oh no, they're like, oh yes, but then this place is different rules, magic exists, dragons exist, elves, dwarves, all sorts of things. So in this book, they're really adapting to this new way of living, and some of them want to get home, some of them don't want to get home, and it's just the whole family conflict going on there, as well as an adventure. And they were sent there for a reason. There's someone out there who is eager to ruin this family, to go out and destroy them, basically. And now that Brian, who is the Gil-Gamesh, has his family back, he is not going to let them be killed or hurt in any way. So that's what this book is about. And I found it to be a pretty good book, but it wasn't the best book. I'm going to be honest here. I really liked it. I really enjoyed reading it, but sometimes I just thought, I'm not sure. The thing is, I expected this book to be a young adult kind of read, but it turned out to be a more upper group, middle grade kind of read, if you know what I mean. I think that if I was a little bit younger, I would have enjoyed this book a whole lot more. But I did still enjoy it, so it's kind of for all ages. But if I was a bit younger, I think I would have liked it more. What I really did like was meeting all the different kind of creatures. I'm someone who loves fantasy, so getting to know like the dragons and how the dragons worked, and then meeting the elves and the dwarves and the goblins. It was actually really interesting for me. I really liked getting to know those creatures, and I had a lot of fun with the fantasy elements in this book. I have to say the best thing about this book has to be how the fantasy elements were handled and done. They created a very good world. The world building was strong. I liked going to the different parts of Avalon, the island, and I loved meeting all the creatures and the traditions and the rules that they had to follow, because they had a different way of living. It was just all done really well, and you could tell that the author took the time to really create this world in the best possible way. I did like the family conflict in there. I did expect it to happen because, of course, if your husband has been missing for like a year, but in Avalon time that's 10 years, it's a pretty long time to live without a wife, and you know, things happened, of course, and then there's 3 children and he's adopted another child, and just so much can happen. So of course it was a lot of family conflict. I did like the family conflict. I found it a bit unrealistic at times how quickly they got over some arguments or some problems, but most of all the family conflict was done pretty well. Although the characters were nice enough, I personally didn't feel much for them, and I think that's where the middle grade feel gets put into this book. Like, the characters were all done very well, everything was done super well, but when it comes down to it, I didn't feel much for the characters. But it was still like perfectly fine to read about them. I didn't hate them or anything, it was just, you know, different. I didn't get immersed in the story as much as I would have wanted to be immersed into it. There are a couple of English mistakes which bothers some people. It didn't really bother me because mostly the English mistakes here were going from past tense to present tense, and just that. It wasn't like spelling mistakes littered all over the place. It was just 1 or 2 or 3 times in the story I noticed it switched from past to present tense, and because I am one of those people who really like English and proper English, I could notice, and it did, you know, distract me a little bit, but it wasn't so bad. If you're going to be buying this book, you'll still be able to read it just fine. I like the climax of this novel, like when things came to the top point where everything was like suspense. I actually really liked how they handled that climax, and I was interested. I was reading the ending and I was like on my Kindle just flicking through everything super fast because I really loved the climax. It was the best part of the book. The best part of the book was the climax. So if you're waiting to get to the climax, enjoy that climax when it comes along. I do have to say this book reminded me sort of like Spiderwick, because I recently read that one and I loved how all the characters met all the creatures. That kind of reminded me of Spiderwick. It reminded me a bit of a Ragan. Like, there was a moment with the elves where something happened and it made me think of a Ragan at the same time. So if you liked either of those 2 books, you will probably like this one as well. And also, I'm really looking forward to the sequel. Can't wait to get started. It's going to be a long journey, so it might be a while before I get the next video review up, but I'm looking forward to reading that one, and that's all I really have to say about this book. I'll be seeing you next week. I'm not sure, but as soon as I have time to make another video amongst all this travelling and crazy malarkey going on, I'll let you know. I'll be seeing you next week with another video. Goodbye! Book is going to come up right now. And if it didn't, I must look a little bit weird. And,